This has been 7 years in the making. We finally got to the point where we got some concrete poured yesterday, but in order to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs, and let me show you what we're up to today. So the foundation for the house came out really good. They did a great job in finishing the top of it, and there'll be plenty of videos about the building of this house. But what is not so great is the amount of, let's just call it concrete trash, that's left afterwards. And we've poured a lot of concrete out here at Piney Grove. Every building out here we built, this was raw land when we bought it. We just poured the inside of that pole barn, and 4 years ago we did the mega shed, and 2 or 3 years ago we did my parents' house there in the background. And it's always the same thing after a concrete pour. And I did a short video a year or two ago, I think it's got 2 million views or so, where I came in behind my parents' house after the pour, and they had cleaned out the pumper truck and also the concrete trucks, and then they had all this slag here around the base of the foundation, and they hadn't cleaned it up. And there was no indication that the general contractor was going to do it. So I came in with our tractor and our excavator, and I cleaned it all up. And I got a lot of comments. A comment was, you chose the cheapest bidder or something like that. Well, I didn't choose that concrete contractor. That was the general contractor of that build. But we have bought concrete from several crews that have a great reputation here in the area, and they do great work. When they pull the form boards off and they take off for the day, you don't see them again, and there is no expectation that they're going to come back and clean this up. Leave a comment down below. What do you get when you pour concrete? Do you get a clean pad and everything cleaned up and ready to landscape around it? Or do you get what we got here? Another common comment on that video was, it's your concrete, you paid for it, therefore you get it. They clean out the truck or whatever, do all that. You paid for it, you paid for the slab to be poured, but you didn't pay for cleanup. I just don't know who's supposed to do the cleanup, because it's not the concrete guys. And when I've actually said something, or when they've come back and backfilled against the foundation, nobody picks up this concrete. What I've found that they do is they bring in a skid steer and they just kind of smooth this dirt out, and they'll push dirt over top of all that concrete trash there. And it gets covered up, and you may never see it. You'll put sod on it and you'll never see it again, but you will see it if you're digging post holes, or if you're digging water lines, or doing some landscaping. So I don't want that concrete in there. We're doing what's called cost plus 20% versus a fixed price. And we could do a whole video on that and which way to go with that. But we feel that we can trust our contractor, and he won't take advantage of us, and we'll end up with a cheaper house if we do cost plus 20%. So I told him this morning, I said, hey man, this is messy out here. And he goes, well, I'll get the concrete guy out there to clean it up. Well, the problem with that is that that would just cost me more money. If the concrete contractor wants $500 to clean this up, I'm gonna pay $500 plus 20%. So none of those are options that I wanna entertain. And I know that nobody's gonna come in here and pick up the little pieces of concrete. They're just gonna cover it with dirt. In fact, at my parents' house, when we were doing some landscaping around that, they had actually buried like a 4-foot 2x12, not even a 2x4, but like a piece of 2x12. And when I was digging down, I came across a piece of wood, and when I dug it out, it was just a big piece of 2x12 that they weren't willing to get out of their skid steer and pick up. But I'm not mad about it. I'm not bitter. We are fortunate to have the machines to do it. I like doing that type of work. But enough of that, let's get to work. First thing I did this morning was go around with our magnet and get as many nails as possible. So I got that bundle of nails there, or pile of nails, and there's still some left on the magnet. There's a little bit of rebar wire. So I just wanted to keep as many nails as possible from going through the tractor tires. And then I'm gonna go around here and pick up the big pieces, use the tractor bucket, and get as many of those big pieces cut away from the slab as I can. And then I got a digging bar over there, and I've already kind of gone around the slab a little bit. I took out about 10 tractor bucketfuls last night off camera, but that concrete was soft enough that I could crush it with the bucket and kind of squish it into the driveway. So big pieces that I can put in the tractor bucket will go around the pond. And then these chunks like this that are smaller than a baseball, we're actually going to screen out of the dirt with the Decite SLG 56 screen. We'll throw the dirt and concrete against the screen. Small dirt will fall through the holes, and then the concrete will create a pile right here. And those little pieces of concrete we can use on the driveway. The crew that was here yesterday was a hard-working crew. We had the first concrete truck show up at 5 a.m. and we poured concrete in the dark until the sun came up, of course. And then I think the crew left around 4:30. So they did a 12-hour day. So the crew wasn't in any way, you know, not actively pouring concrete. It's just that they were not interested in doing what I'm doing. But I'm gonna go around and get these bigger pieces and fill the bucket up with them. And then we'll come back through and get the small pieces. I tried to chip at this morning, but it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna bring the tractor bucket in here and kind of lift it up. So in this area, there's supposed to be a brick ledge, and a brick ledge is just, you know, I don't know, wide as your hand where we lay bricks, but they didn't trowel that out. So I don't want to, you know, mess up their brick ledge here, but I don't need a brick ledge 2 feet out. This stuff is set up so hard. Yeah, I wish I had chipped this last night, or I wish someone had. Just 5 years ago, I would have just grabbed a hold of this and manhandled it, but between shoulder surgery and bad knees, the worst part about this is going to be getting it to the bucket, and then it falls out of the bucket. Ah, that thing's heavy. I don't know how many swings of the sledgehammer I have in me, but I want to knock this back a little bit if I can. Nice if I had like a little jackhammer thing, cut that off nicely right along that brick edge. Now I'd like to run straight towards the camera and kind of chip away at that with the bucket, but then I'm going to end up getting a lot more dirt. Let's see what the best way is here. I do not in any way want to chip away at Deb's porch floor right there. They only need the width of a brick there. I'll have to run a lot of this through the screen, but it's looking better already. And once I'm done here, it's gonna look real good and give the guys, the bricklayers, a much better working environment. We do appreciate all of the subcontractors, just all the people that have to come out here and work in the hot sun to build our dream home. We went out last week to Tractor Supply and dropped like $200 and some on a picnic table, and then we moved their porta potty from in the sun back there to in the shade, just so they have a place where they can rest and have their lunch and of course do their business out here on the job site and not go into 120-degree porta potty. I'm going to chip this out as well, and this board that was right here that formed up this porch, there was stakes in the ground that held that porch up, and the footer was dug like to about here. So there's no way you can chip this back because that footer is 16 inches deep or more. So all we're doing is knocking this edge off here and getting all these little pieces of concrete and get them out of here. Because like I said before, they would just put dirt over it. And the problem is when you put dirt over top of it and you till it to put grass, these little chunks will come back up, end up in your lawnmower. If they're in your lawnmower, you might fling them into your window, and just want this all clean. This is a good 4 or 5 inches thick there. Already wearing out a little bit. My digging stick here, it's called a digging bar. It's a little bent. And I mainly use this to move 3-point hitch equipment around. It's a great tool for that, but I guess I lifted something pretty heavy with it. Bend it at the end. That's how deep that is. There's no way I'm gonna be able to chip any farther back. Woo, doggy, I'm wore out. That's a lot better, a lot better. Got this all pretty much chipped out, so I'm gonna use the Summit tractor because it has a narrower bucket than the Kubota. I left a nice brick ledge. I can't go any farther because it's too thick. I'll clean all that up, scoop that up with the bucket, and sift it with the sight screen over there. So this side is pretty much just tractor work and shoveling, no more chipping. Same over here. This is the stoop that goes into our mud room. I'm gonna chip away at that a little bit, and also along here, the front of the garage. I don't know if I can get any big chunks out of this. I'll just have to see, but I'd like to get some big chunks to put along the pond's edge. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a bunch of little gravel stuff that we can put in the driveway. Got the first bucket load ready to dump on the screen, and I got the Summit to catch the small stuff, and then the larger stuff should roll off here, and then I'll scoop that up with the Kubota and put that in the driveway. It's not going to do a perfect job because there's a lot of wet clumps in here of dirt that the screen can't filter out, but the bucket of the Summit's pretty full of small dirt and fine concrete particles that won't pose a threat or anything to a lawnmower or things like that. So it's working out pretty good. It's just that some of this material back there on the porch is a little wet. So I'm gonna have a lot of dirt with my bigger rocks here. So I think what I'm gonna do is just keep screening that clay material until I get a big pile of big rocks and clay, and then pull out the big rocks for the pond. And then I think with the rest of that, I'm just going to put around the culverts of the pond, the clay and the gravel. I don't want the gravel back around the house foundation. I don't want it here in the driveway. It's not clean enough to make the new driveway here. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna keep screening, take the Summit when it gets full, dump them in piles around the foundation for backfill, and that way just get through a lot of this material rather than picking through it now. So it takes a minute to get your systems down, but I think I got a good process going on here. If the Summit bucket was as wide as the Kubota bucket, it would catch more dirt and it would make things a little easier. But what I have here is just working out really well. I'm starting to get into some dry material. I'm done with that clay, wet, damp material. So I can take this down to the pond and put it alongside a culvert and pack it in. And this dry stuff just really filters nicely through that screen, and it just makes it a lot quicker. I don't have to bounce the screen as much. Just kind of dump it, the screen's clean, and go get another bucket full with the Kubota. But this should now go a lot quicker, and I should get a lot cleaner concrete fragments that I can actually use for the driveway, because there's a lot of little stuff in here I'd love to put on the driveway and build that up. It's the next day, and I worked until dark last night and got a lot done, but there's still a lot to do. I got all this clean out area here where the truck's dumped. That's all good, and all that sifted. Now what I got to do is go around the foundation and kind of shovel up the chips that are left. There's not a lot of breaking up of concrete left to do, if there's any. I think my hardest stretch left is right there off the back porch. This east side over here is going to be pretty quick. I got a pile here I got to screen, and there's a little bit of shoveling required there along the east side. And then the front side, which was the absolute worst, I didn't really get much done on that in the late afternoon. I just got to kind of pile that stuff up there, shovel it into the bucket, and then screen it. We had a little bit of rain last night, so the pad's a little wet, but it's not too wet out here that I can't sift the dirt. So I figure, I don't know, 4 more hours and I'll have this thing the way it should be. Miss Piney Grove going for her morning walk with Bella. And of course, Bella's always 100 yards ahead. We're on day 3 of working on this foundation, but let's go dump this in the screen. After we do that, I'll show you the foundation. It's looking great. It really has set it off what we want the house to look like when it's done. And also there's something else I want to talk to you guys about, but let's go dump this and then we'll talk about that. I have no idea how many loads that I've screeded out here, but it has been a bunch. And it's been way more than I expected. And what I'm finding is, because I didn't change the screen to the smaller screen, I'm still getting a lot of fine concrete particles through the screen, but it's doing a really great job. And I've gotten a lot of big concrete to put around the pond's edge and many loads of the smaller screenings that I've put on the driveway. So those came out pretty clean, and they're the smaller ones. They would go on the driveway. And you see that big one right there? Something like that would go around the pond's edge for erosion control, and we had some that were way bigger than that. And what we got on this side is mainly fill dirt with a few fines on the concrete. Some of these are thinner, so they make it through. But what I do is they kind of come here on the edge, and I just shovel up these, and they make good driveway material. Remember when we started this video, we were talking about how the concrete contractor left it a mess. So here's the back end. So I scraped that, and now you can see the brick ledge. So brick, about 5 or 6 courses of brick will go there along the bottom. You can see that, and what I want is very little dirt to cover that brick ledge. So that took quite a bit of work, not only picking up all the concrete pieces, but also leveling this. And this is the back of the porch, same thing. It's kind of the same theme all the way around, is that there's a lot of concrete slop or slag, and I had to chip it and clean it up. I think one of the worst places was the front porch, and that came out really good. And I will say that the custom builder that's building the house, it's a partnership. Both of them came out here and talked to me yesterday, and they said, we'll get the concrete guy to come out here and clean this up. Now the concrete contractor still has some things he has to address, but I said, I'm gonna clean this up because I wanna see this brick edge and make a determination on how much brick we wanna put along the front here and how much and how high we want it to go up. So you see we got that down to about an 8-inch brick ledge, and it only has to be 5-inch, but you can't chip that anymore. And then places like this where they used a sledgehammer to try to knock those wood pieces out, they're going to come in here and reform up the corners. In talking to the general contractor, he said that because of the way the concrete trucks came in, and it's hot here in Florida, so concrete sets up quickly, and you order a certain slump, which is basically the wetness of the concrete, and that basically gives you more or less time to cure. And there's different reasons why you may want a faster cure versus a slower cure. So basically it got away from him. before he could pull these stakes out all the way around that held up the form boards, it had hardened too much and they took out the stakes the best way they could. But now they have to devise some way to go down into all of these stake pockets and get that wood out. And the reason they have to do that is that's the brick ledge, and the brick can't sit on top of that wood. And you also don't want wood in your foundation. I mean, the whole reason you go concrete foundation is so you don't have wood and have it susceptible to termites. So they have to come back and do that. But in my opinion, this was worth my time to do. It gives me peace of mind on what the foundation looks like. So that's where we finished up just a couple of minutes ago on that edge. This edge here wasn't too bad right there. This edge was horrible all along the front porch here. That's probably the worst place. Not only was that thick, but it was also wide, and just took a long time to chip out. That corner wasn't too bad, but I had a real high spot there of dirt. So now I got all that dirt down. And this ledge wasn't too bad. Let me show you something before we get to the end of the video. That is Bella's paw print right there. Would that have been important to you? The way the foundation was at the beginning of the video, and then me taking my own time and my own machines and diesel and all that stuff and working 3 days to get it the way it is. I've been talking to some friends about it, and they're like, oh, you're making too big a deal out of this, and that, you know, you can cover all those concrete chips up with dirt. And I don't feel that way. I feel like this is our forever home. I want it to be absolutely perfect, not only for myself, but for Deb. And I feel like if I have to invest some time, even though we're paying a contractor to do the work for us, then it's worth it to me. And I'm not really even that bitter about it. I wanted the concrete contractor to do a better job, but he didn't, and there's no sense complaining about it. And what I didn't want to do is have him come back and then he still didn't do it the way I wanted it. And then I'm still doing this again, but now I'm twice as aggravated. So leave a comment down below. Have you ever built a house? You know, what things did you have to maybe let go versus making sure everything was, you know, exactly the way you wanted it? But I do know that this elevation and the slope and everything has to be a certain way in order for the brick to show before the hardy board. And the only way to do that is to do what I did, and no one else was doing it on the contract team. So that's why I did it. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. We sure appreciate you watching. Please click that like button and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, y'all.